Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and over the past week or so, a lot of people have been asking me on stream, what can I be doing currently right now in patch 10.0.7 to prep for patch 10.1? And with there being less than a month or so until the patch actually hits, I want to discuss 4 or 5 different points tonight, what you can be doing to prep / gain a bit of maybe possible player power before the patch hits, get a bit of a head start, and yeah, be ahead of the pack. Now, the first thing here is sort of basic. I've been doing this with a handful of characters, but there's actually a bit more to it. Number one, I would say, is leveling alts that you might end up playing in patch 10.1. Now, leveling in Dragonflight is pretty fast with dragon riding and things of the sort, but there's still a really fast way to level, and that is by leveling in Brackenhide Hollow. Now, in this general vicinity, there is a tremendous amount of mobs, and there's a lot of people in trade chat that are selling these fast leveling boost services. Nothing is against that TOS wise or anything. They're literally, all they're doing is pulling you out to Brackenhide Hollow and putting you basically AFK in a handful of places, like up here, somewhere. I think it's even happening right here, I believe. And it takes you about an hour to an hour and a half to go from 60 to 70. The boost costs about 100k to 130k gold. If you get a handful of friends together, you can do it on your own too. Most groups roll with like a tank and a DPS and 2 or 3 AFK players. Now, number one, this is a great way to make gold if you're selling the runs. Once again, a tank, a DPS, 2 or 3 AFK players, you can make 300k gold in an hour and a half, split between 2 people. If you're buying the runs, this saves a tremendous amount of time leveling a character or multiple characters instead of spending 7 or 8 hours doing the campaign over and over again. Now, at this point, you've got about a month until the patch comes out. You've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 resets, so about a month worth of Mythic Plus, which gives a good bit of time to gear a character up, get it running through keys, get some great balls coming in, some raid stuff, make your new ring on the new island if need be. There's also like benthic catch-up gear, whatever it's called, from the island as well. These runs are getting cheaper and cheaper, but the closer the patch gets within the next 2 weeks or so, I would assume they increase a good bit in price. At the same time, there's a bit of a lull in content on retail right now. So for a handful of reasons, if you're going to look at leveling alts or gearing them up, now's a great time. Hey, there are some rares up, by the way. That leads into point 2. Now, number 2, like I just mentioned, is farming rares. And farming rares sort of leads into point 3 and 4 at times. If you're not farming rares right now, you're missing out on a lot of valuable resources, all the above. Number 1, rares still give reputation for Paragon levels, which is, Paragon levels being these 4. If you're looking to level up your rep for next patch, it's a great way to do that. To a similar extent, if you're looking to farm bottle essences or dragon shards of knowledge for tailoring or whatever profession you are, it's a great source of those as well. I probably pull, I would say on average, 1 or 2 dragon shards just like that. Literally, this is not planned, I swear, literally every day making a lap around the zones. Now, as far as the most lucrative places to farm rares and hotspots in the map in each zone are concerned, if you're in Onarim Plains up here in the Hudan Legion, Hudan Hold area part of the map, most of these rares are typically up in the later evening to early morning. To a similar extent, heading up here into Waking Shores, these rares, more like Turboris and Char, are up most of the time. If you wait a bit, you can get the ones in the middle here. Waking Shores is sort of for rares. The big rares, though, lie in Thaldraszus and Azure Span. Thaldraszus has a handful of rares that spawn up here in Tier Hold about every hour to hour and a half, it seems. To a similar extent, the Temporal Conflux has a few rares that are in the main unphased zone, and 4 to 5 rares that spawn pretty frequently in the phased version, taking the portal down to Chromie time, or whatever you want to call it. If you make a lap around the map, hitting Tier Hold in the Temporal Conflux, I typically see 4 to 5 rares, barring 1 or 2 being up just, wherever you're flying. Making a lap through these 2, heading into Azure Span. Down here in Camp Nowhere, these 4 rares are up, I feel, 90% of the time whenever I go down there, whether it's 3 in the afternoon or 3 a.m. And after killing these 4, fly over here, hit 1 or 2 of these if they're up, to Brackenhide Hollow, where most of these are still alive. I just killed 1 there as well, once again, the majority of the time. And make your final lap around up again in here into Onarim Plains, and there you go. Now, typically, there's a few rares sprinkled along the way just by flying over random parts of the map. Shade of Torment's up quite often, I believe, a bit as well. But like I said, I pull probably 2 to 3 dragon shards every few days. And essences, bottle essences, sparks, probably 1 a week. And I don't really even farm rares every day anymore. If you're behind on Paragon rep, whatever you want to call it, want more dragon shards for crafting, which is a big part of what's coming up in a second here, or just more bottle essences for crafting actual pieces of gear, farming rares is actually the biggest thing you can be doing. And probably the best way to farm player power heading in the next patch. Let's talk about how you get that player power. Now, chances are decent you're asking yourself, okay, but I'm already 420, I'm 418, I've got a lot of 415 gear. Why should I be farming these rares for essences, for sparks, whatever you want to call it, when I can just be chilling for 10.1? And to be fair, that's a valid question. The answer, though, is that all crafted gear, whether it's a ring, a belt, a cloak, anything you craft at 418 turns into 421 gear in patch 10.1, basically the equivalent of the Great Vault. For example, I'm on retail here, 418 belt, I hop the PTR, that belt is 421, the exact same belt. There's no socket in it because this is an early character copy to a similar extent. My rings that I crafted are 418 on retail, which are right here. On PTR, they are 421 and 421. So certain spots in the raid, for example, like for clothies, I guess everybody, honestly, cloaks are very hard to come by. I guess not hard to come by, but high eye level ones. The only cloak that drops in the raid in Vault is a 415 cloak from Sinarth, which is pretty mediocre if you're farming higher end content, farming the raid, having it cleared out, and running 20s in your Vault. The only way to get a higher cloak past 415 is to make one at 418 or open one at 421 in the Vault. If you haven't gotten lucky enough to do that, well, this cloak once again becomes a 421 cloak somewhere in here. I don't think I have this cloak made on PTR, but it becomes 421 in patch 10.1. So if you're looking to fill little holes in your gear sets to find every little bit of value for early next tier, if you don't get lucky on a cloak or a belt or whatever, what have you, crafting those pieces now is actually pretty important and can lead to minor power gains early on. Now, having 421 gear is cool and all for the start of the next patch. It'll be like a minor player power gain if you're looking at, getting every little ounce, every little tiny partial amount out of your gear you possibly can. But the big thing is that if you're like me, it's week 87 of patch 10.0. I'm opening garbage in my vault every week at this point, so I'm just buying sockets or saving coins. Now, you can use coins to buy just straight up bottle essences, but it costs 12. That's a lot. Or you can use 6 to buy a socket, which can go on helm, neck, bracers, belt, or rings. Rings, if you craft them, already have sockets. Neck already has 3 from the auction house, basically. Jewel crafters can make them. The thing here, helms, bracers, and belts. So you can make a 421 belt and put a socket in it for next patch. Once again, a bit more power gain. But the thing people are forgetting is that just like in Shadowlands with legendaries, you could socket a legendary helm or bracers or whatever and upgrade it next patch. That socket would carry over to next season. Season 2, Season 3. You can do the exact same thing right now in Season 1 in prep for 10.1, Season 2, and Aberrus. So this is retail here, for example. Here is PTR. So I'm going to recraft this belt that I have here at 421. It's 421 because, hey, the eye level increased, right? So here's the belt. It has a socket on it. Now, currently, it will not display a socket if you recraft it. I have to remove these because it's bugged, but it's fine. I'll add a spark of Shadow Flame to this to make it a higher eye level. At 424, recraft, no socket is displayed here. But if I recraft this, where's the belt? There it is. The socket carries over, the gem carries over, all the above. Now, as far as relevant items to do this with, obviously belts, bracers, helms if you want. Helms are a part of your tier set, so it sort of depends what you're looking at next tier. Items I'm looking at. I'm a Warlock, I'm a Clothy, so I'm looking at targeting things that I might use next tier. There are partial embellishments. Obviously having a belt, having bracers crafted with a socket in them. To a similar extent, engineering bracers for every class in the game can be pure haste, pure mastery, a large amount of one secondary stat. Likely a pretty good option to socket ahead of time if need be. Put a work order in, have it crafted, put a socket in it, you're good to go. Helms, once again, part of your tier set, so it's a bit of, not sure if we want to do that. But whatever armor type you are, for tailoring, for example, Chronocloth set. Chronocloth actually has a belt. Now, it might not be worn next patch. Don't really know how embellishments are going to be in 10.1, but seeing as how I'm sort of swimming in sparks and things right now, and likely I have 4 more weeks of sockets coming in from the Great Vault, I'm looking at crafting a Chronocloth belt with a socket, socketing normal bracers, socketing engineering bracers, and then possibly making something like this. I already had this made, like socketing this, socketing these bracers, and having every base covered if possible. So number one, I can sort of double dip and cheese it and not have to buy a socket next season. Because at the same time, Lariat's changing. The more sockets you have, the better off you are. And if you're like me, I am still wearing a crafted belt. So yeah. And the last thing I'd say here, it's not even that relevant comparatively to everything else, is keeping up on profession knowledge. And I guess if you're behind on it, sort of catching up. Now, obviously, first crafts can yield early knowledge points, or I guess extra ones. But when it comes to professions, for example, I'm a tailor. I've maxed out garment crafting and working on needlework and things. Whether you're making gold next patch, crafting for your guild, crafting for yourself, or just being a completionist, right? There's no catch-up mechanic for professional stuff. Now, if you're starting an alt now and things, yeah, you're a little behind, but at the same time, it's still worth investing time into all the ways you can obtain points per week. I have a week warrior here. I'll put it down below. A link to this. It shows every week what you can do for those, weekly points, disturb dirt or scout packs, mob shopping certain reagents and things for points, treaties as well. And like I said, if you're making the lap around the map once a day, once every other day, without Drasis, like hitting tier hold rares, hitting complex rares, heading into Azure Span, hitting Camp Nowhere, hitting Brackenhide, and then hitting, northern part of Anaran Plains up here, and whatever's, I guess, left in Waking Shores. It takes like 20-ish minutes per lap, if that. You make 2 laps, you kill 10, 12 rares, a good chance at a Dragon Shard or 2, an okay chance at a Bottle of Essence, but if you do it, 3 times a week, that's a pretty good chance. I've gotten a Bottle of Essence basically every week just doing that and doing farm on Wednesday night with the guild. It's not a whole lot of time investment if you have an extra 30, 40 minutes once or twice a week, 3, 4 times. If you do it daily, I did it daily for a week one time and I was swimming in Dragon Shards. I've nearly finished off tailoring, which is incredibly involved. This part of the tree for tailoring is basically equal to all of alchemy, it seems like. And a lot of that is due to farming Dragon Shards, maxing, getting everything done here every week, just making sure that I have all my points spent, I guess gathered, and I guess, allocated to applicable points I'm looking to invest into in patch 10.1. So thanks for watching, guys. That should wrap it up. Hopefully the video wasn't too long. I wanted to make a short one just talking about how I've been prepping for patch 10.1. There's really not a whole lot to do. I personally enjoy finding little ways to min-max player power grinds, all that stuff heading into a new patch. And as far as 0.1's concerned, it really only is the crafting of 418 to 421 gear and sockets. Sockets are a legitimate grind, or at least a legitimate source of power. If, for example, a pair of bracers or a belt or even a helm, if you don't get tier early on, if you're wearing a crafted one, want to upgrade it, having that socket around is good, number one, for more throughput, more damage. And like I said, Lariat's being nerfed next patch, and it works based on the number of sockets you have active. So whether you're crafting extra pieces of gear in prep, maybe use them next patch, or just filling holes before the patch is open, it's worth doing. At this point, you can just run, you can either kill, I think, 5 bosses in the raid. I think it's 2-5, and then as far as the first vault option, second vault option, and then run 1 key per week. It takes maybe half an hour, maybe an hour in LFR, and about half an hour to run a key, and that's a guaranteed socket every single week. So now at the same time, guys, if I missed anything in the video, there's some power grinds out there that I'm not doing that I don't know of. Please put them down below in the comment section. If you have any questions, drop them down there as well, like always, and I'll be sure to get back to you. If you saw any week wars in the video or want the profession one, links to Twitch and Discord down below. I'll probably put the profession one just in the comment section, but they're all for free for you guys there in general. And like usual, I also want to give one huge shout out to my patrons before we end the video. Guys, for all support on Patreon, thank you a million times. I really appreciate it. It allows me to keep doing what I'm doing for you guys, and I really appreciate it. If you're looking at supporting, should be a link up here as well as down below. Patch 10.1 is coming in less than a month. It feels overwhelming, but at the same time, there is not as much to do, which is not a bad thing. I've sort of enjoyed the lack of excessive grinds in patch 10.0, but at the same time, I'm enjoying grinding sparks and essences and sockets and all that in prep for 9.1. It's hard to find the middle ground if you're Blizzard there between having not much content to do and having too much content. I feel like where things are at now, I'm sort of okay with it. It's a decent middle ground. I wouldn't mind some kind of player power grind at some point again. But as far as 10.0 is concerned, I think it ended up working out pretty well. So all that being said, thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, hit the like and sub buttons below. It helps out a ton. And I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.